Other than Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, your testimony in the Senate and here is that according to the evidence you have, the number of other names is 0.
That were charged based on credible evidence.
Well, who are the other names? Give me the other names that weren't charged.
September 17th, 2025, House Judiciary Committee. Jared Moskowitz of Florida had been in that room for the entire hearing. He had watched Kash Patel field questions about the Epstein files for hours. He had seen the deflections, the legal qualifications, the references to court orders and non-prosecution agreements. He came to the microphone with a different approach. He started with a timeline. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino were nominated. MAGA celebrated. The Epstein list was finally coming out. White binders were produced. Phase 1 with the podcasters. Then a memo said there was no list. Phase 2 never happened. And now Patel is testifying that according to the FBI's evidence, the number of people Epstein trafficked victims to, other than Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, is 0. Moskowitz got Patel to say the number out loud, then asked for the names that weren't charged. Here is what happened.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I begin, I want to caution my colleagues on, one-sided violence in this country. We just heard that there were no riots on the right. We're literally sitting in the building where there was a giant riot by supporters of the president, the right. We also heard that only leftists have said that Trump is a Nazi. In 2016, the current vice president of the United States said, Trump is either a cynical asshole or he's America's Hitler. And so this is the problem. I don't want to have to say this garbage, but you want me to sit here and get painted with one brush, the whole left. No, there are extremes on the left, and there are extremes on the right. And we collectively should tackle that. But to come here and just look at us and say we all support what's going on in the extremes is why we can't solve anything in this building. Director, let me say first, thank you for being here, and my condolences on the loss of your friend. And I'm happy to hear that you want to do more on the social media platforms. It's crazy what's going on the social media platforms. There are so many conspiracy theories on what's going on with Charlie Kirk. Israel assassinated him, right? There are conspiracy theories about your personal social life all day. It is totally rampant. Big names on the right, Candace Owens, right? Talking about how what's been released as far as the dialogue between the perpetrator and his roommate is manufactured by the FBI, manufactured by the administration. It is totally rampant, allowing foreign governments to just perpetrate these platforms, all of these bots, all of the time to weaponize Americans. You see what's going on here? This is a byproduct of all of that. What's going on in the streets is a byproduct of all of that. What's happening is you see people celebrate Luigi Mangione is a byproduct of all of that. And so if we want to do something, then we should talk about Section 230. We should talk about how we're going to make sure that we don't let foreign governments poison our children's mind. And so I will work with you on that, Director.
I'll work with you on 230 any day.
No problem. So now, that was the good part. I want to take your attention back a second, okay? Breaking news. Kash Patel is nominated to be the FBI director. Dan Bongino is nominated to be the number 2 at the FBI. MAGA celebrates, rejoices, bells are ringing out. The team, Patel, Bongino, that sought out every podcast microphone to talk about the Epstein list. The names are finally going to get released. It begins. They produce white binders. Phase 1 with the podcasters. This is not actually one of them, of course. I made this. Your name's on it, right? And the names are going to come out. Pam Bondi says the list is on her desk. Then a memo comes out all of a sudden and says, there's no list. Oh, no phase 2. Phase 2 binders never happen. You said the conspiracy theories around Epstein just aren't true. They never have been. And yesterday in an answer to Senator Kennedy, you said, the FBI is not in possession of any credible evidence that Epstein trafficked girls to anyone but himself. So according to your testimony yesterday and in this committee, according to the evidence the FBI has, the number of names on the list are zero.
No,
zero.
The index has been released, and the number of people involved in that trafficking operation were charged in 2018.
Other than Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, your testimony in the Senate and here is that according to the evidence you have, the number of other names is zero.
That were charged based on credible evidence.
Well, who are the other names? Give me the other names that weren't charged.
We are not releasing the names of anyone because the Department of Justice never does that, of anyone that didn't have any credible information to attack them.
Let me move forward. The president has, you've seen the picture of the woman's body with the writing and the president's signature. The president says that's not his. Okay? President says it's not his. The Republican colleagues say it's not his. The administration say it's not his. Will you be opening up an investigation into the Epstein estate for putting out a fake document with the president's signature linking him to the world's largest pedophile ring? Will you be opening that investigation into that?
On what basis?
On what basis? They literally put out a fake document, according to the president, with a fake signature. It's a forgery of the president of the United States signature. That's the basis.
Sure, I'll do it.
Okay, I look forward to that investigation. Am I over? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your diligence.
Zero. That is the number Patel confirmed on the record. Other than Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, the number of people who received trafficking victims, according to the FBI's evidence, is zero. That is his sworn testimony in the Senate and in this committee. Then Moskowitz asked the obvious follow-up. Who are the other names that weren't charged? Not the people who were charged, the people who were identified but never prosecuted. Patel's answer, we do not release names of anyone who didn't have credible information. That answer contains something important. It is not a denial that other names exist. It is an explanation for why they will not be released. Those are two different things. If the number of uncharged names was truly zero, if there were no other names at all, the answer would simply be there are no other names. Patel did not say that. He said he would not release them. Then came the timeline Moskowitz laid out. Patel and Bongino are nominated. They had spent months on every podcast promising the Epstein names would come out. They built their public profiles in part on that promise. White binders are produced. Phase 1, given to podcasters, not investigators. Pam Bondi says the list is on her desk. A memo then says there is no list. Phase 2 never happens. And now the FBI director sits before Congress and testifies that according to the evidence, the number of other names is zero. That is the complete arc, from promise to binder to memo to zero. Moskowitz also raised the forgery question. A photograph circulated showing a woman's body with writing and a signature attributed to the president. The president said it is not his signature. If that is true, if the Epstein estate or anyone connected to it put out a document forging the signature of the president of the United States to link him to the world's largest pedophile ring, that is a federal crime. Moskowitz asked whether Patel would open an investigation on that basis. Patel said, sure, I'll do it. On the record, in front of the committee. There is also the social media dimension Moskowitz raised. Conspiracy theories about the Charlie Kirk attack circulating immediately, including claims from major right-wing figures that FBI communications were manufactured. Foreign governments using bots to poison Americans with misinformation, the celebration of violence online as a byproduct of years of that ecosystem being allowed to operate without accountability. Moskowitz said he would work with Patel on Section 230. Patel said the same. That may be the only moment of agreement in the entire exchange. Zero, that is the number on the record. And the names that weren't charged, those were not released. Those were not confirmed to not exist. Those were simply declined. And that distinction, just between not existing and not being released, is the entire question that this hearing failed to resolve. Because those two things have completely different implications. If the uncharged names do not exist, then the investigation was complete and the public record is accurate. If the uncharged names exist but are being withheld, then the question becomes on whose behalf and under what authority. Patel's answer established that names exist in the files. His answer also established that those names will not be released. What his answer did not establish is whether those names represent people who were investigated and cleared or people who were investigated and protected. That gap does not close with a number, it closes with transparency, and transparency is exactly what this hearing did not produce. Subscribe now and turn on notifications, because the gap between those two things is exactly where this story lives.